Hey everyone, 99% of you watching aren't subscribed. Let's change that. Hit that subscribe button, and at 1,000 subscribers, we'll drop special stories just for you.
Earth did not fall in fire. It fell in silence. The first Varelian ship appeared over the Pacific, vast, impossibly smooth, reflecting sunlight like a second sky. Within hours, more followed. They didn't announce themselves. They didn't demand surrender. They simply acted. Satellites went dark. Military systems failed mid-command. Entire defense grids shut down as if someone had flipped a switch. Cities that resisted weren't destroyed in explosions, but erased, buildings collapsing inward, reduced to dust without sound. No one knew how to fight something that didn't behave like war. By the third day, global leaders attempted communication. By the seventh, half of them were gone. By the 11th, humanity surrendered. The official statement called it the Treaty of Survival. Most people called it what it was: submission dressed as diplomacy. Aaron Vale watched the announcement from a dim government office, surrounded by others who had the same hollow look in their eyes. He had been pulled from a civilian job, translation work, mostly academic, and reassigned under emergency authority. Now, he translated alien language patterns, or at least tried to. "They don't think like us," Aaron muttered, scrolling through lines of Aurelian script. It's not just language, it's structure. Meaning doesn't sit in words. It's layered. Can you translate it or not? His supervisor snapped. Aaron exhaled slowly. I can interpret it. Translation implies accuracy. We don't need perfect. We need usable. That had become the standard for everything. Not perfect, just enough to survive. The treaty was short, disturbingly short. No long negotiations. No compromises written in legal complexity. Just a series of direct, absolute conditions. Earth remains intact under Varelian oversight. Human governance continues, but under supervision. Resource sharing is mandatory. Cultural and biological integration programs will begin immediately. Aaron had paused on that last line. Integration? He asked aloud. His supervisor didn't answer. The meaning became clear 3 days later. They called it the Union Initiative. A list of selected humans, carefully profiled, was released. Each was assigned to a Varelian counterpart. The purpose was described as mutual understanding and long-term stability. No one used the word marriage at first, but that's what it was. Forced unions, public ones, symbolic and political at the same time. Aaron wasn't concerned until he saw his name. He stared at the screen, convinced it had to be a mistake. Vale Aaron, selected for union assignment. Pairing: Sareth Kale, Varelian diplomatic entity. He blinked, then laughed. A short, sharp, disbelieving sound. "This is a joke," he said. No one else laughed. His supervisor approached, expression grim. "It's not. There are billions of people on this planet," Aaron said, standing up. "Why me?" "Because you're exactly what they asked for." "And what's that?" The man hesitated, then read from a tablet. High linguistic adaptability, psychological resilience, low aggression profile, strong empathy markers. Aaron frowned. That sounds like a therapist, not. It sounds like someone who won't cause problems. The supervisor cut in. Someone who can adjust. Aaron shook his head. "You're asking me to marry an alien. I'm telling you that you've been assigned. That's not the same thing." It is now. The next 48 hours pass in a blur. Medical scans, psychological evaluations, orientation briefings that answered nothing and raised everything. What do they look like? Aaron asked during one session. The official paused. "You'll see soon enough." That's not comforting. They're not here to comfort you. The meeting was scheduled at a neutral facility. What used to be a diplomatic complex, now repurposed for interspecies contact. Aaron stood outside the room, heart pounding harder than it had at any point during the invasion. This wasn't fear of death. It was something stranger, more personal, more permanent. The door slid open. "Go in," a guard said. Aaron hesitated, then stepped inside. She was already there. Sareth Kale. For a moment, his brain struggled to process what he was seeing. She was humanoid, but only just taller than him. her posture straight and deliberate. Her skin shimmered faintly, like polished metal under soft light. Her eyes, if they could be called that, were deep, reflective, almost liquid in appearance. Not monstrous, not comforting, just other. "You're Aaron Vale," she said. Her voice was smooth, controlled. Not cold, but not warm either. Aaron swallowed. "Yeah, that's me." A pause. Then, "You are experiencing elevated stress levels." He let out a breath that almost turned into a laugh. "That obvious?" "Yes." "Well, good. At least I'm predictable." Sarah studied him, her gaze unblinking. "Predictability is not a flaw," she said. "It is a foundation." Aaron crossed his arms slightly, trying to steady himself. "Do you always talk like that?" "Yes." "Great." Another pause, longer this time. Then she said something he didn't expect. "This union was not my preference." Aaron blinked. "Wait, what?" "I selected you," she clarified, "but I did not choose a system that required it." That stopped him. "You picked me?" "Yes." "Why?" She stepped closer, not threatening, but undeniably intense. "For compatibility," she said. "That's not an answer. It is the only one that matters." Silence settled between them. Heavy, unavoidable. Aaron looked at her, really looked this time. Not just as an alien, not just as a symbol of everything that had gone wrong, but as the person, or at least something close enough. "This is insane," he said quietly. "Yes," Sarah agreed. Another pause, then softer, "But it is also necessary." Aaron shook his head. "For who?" She didn't answer immediately. When she did, her voice carried something new, not authority, not detachment, something closer to truth. "For both of us," she said. Outside, the world was still adjusting to the reality of survival. Inside that room, Aaron realized something far more unsettling. This wasn't temporary. This wasn't symbolic. This was his life now, and whether he wanted it or not, it had already begun. The first night felt longer than the war. Aaron stood in the center of the residence assigned to them, a structure that had once been a government villa, now altered with subtle, unsettling precision. The walls curved more than they should. The lighting had no visible source. Even the air felt adjusted, like it had been tuned to a different standard of comfort, or a different species. "This place doesn't feel real," he muttered. "It has been modified for dual habitation," Sarah said from across the room. "Atmospheric balance, gravity calibration, and sensory harmonization." Aaron blinked. "You just said a lot of words that don't make me feel better." "That was not my intention." "Yeah, I figured." They were alone. That was the part no one had prepared him for. There were no guards inside, no supervisors watching every movement. Just them, two strangers bound by a decision neither of them truly made. "So," Aaron said, pacing slightly, "how does this work?" Sarah observed him carefully. "You will need to be more specific." "Right, of course." He ran a hand through his hair. "I mean, are we expected to act like a couple?" "Yes." That was fast. "It is the purpose of the union." Aaron let out a quiet laugh, though there was no humor in it. "You say that like it's simple." "It is not simple," she said, "but it is required." "That doesn't make it easier." "No," she agreed, "it does not." The first few days were structured. Schedules were provided. Shared meals, communication, exercises, public appearances. Everything was monitored, even if invisibly. Reports would be written. Progress evaluated. They were an experiment. Aaron hated that part most. During their first shared meal, he stared at the plate in front of him. "What is this?" he asked. "A nutritionally optimized compound," Sarah replied. "That's not food. That's a science project. It is designed to sustain both of us." "Does it have a name?" "Yes." "And—" Sarah paused. "It does not translate." Aaron sighed. "Of course it doesn't." He took a bite anyway. It wasn't terrible. That somehow made it worse. Conversation was difficult at first, not because of language. They both understood each other well enough. But because of meaning. Everything Sarah said felt deliberate, measured, as if every word had been weighed before being spoken. Aaron, on the other hand, spoke impulsively, emotionally, messily. "You don't joke, do you?" he asked one afternoon. "I am capable of humor. I haven't seen it. That does not mean it is absent. That's exactly what it means." Sarah tilted her head slightly. "Explain humor." Aaron blinked. "You're serious?" "Yes." He stared at her for a moment, then laughed despite himself. "Okay, humor is when something is unexpected, but in a way that makes you feel good instead of confused or scared." Sarah considered this. "So it is a controlled disruption of expectation. That is the least funny way anyone has ever described humor." "I am learning." Aaron smirked faintly. Clearly, despite everything, something began to shift. Not quickly, not dramatically, but enough. Sarah asked questions, not about Earth politics, not about military structure, but about him. "What was your role before the invasion?" "Translation work, mostly research." "You chose that path." "Yeah, I liked understanding how people think." "And now," Aaron hesitated, "now I'm trying to understand how you think." Sarah's gaze softened just slightly. "That is a more complex task. I'm starting to notice." At night, the silence felt different, less oppressive, more shared. They occupied separate spaces within the residence, but the awareness of each other remained constant. One evening, Aaron found her standing near the large observation window, looking out at the city, or what was left of it. "You don't sleep?" he asked. "I enter a state of reduced activity," she said, "but not in the same way humans do." "So no dreams." A pause. "Not as you experience them." Aaron stepped beside her, staring out at the distant lights. "I used to dream all the time," he said. "Normal stuff. Weird stuff. Didn't matter. And now," he shrugged, "now it's just noise. Fragments. Nothing clear." Sarah was quiet for a moment. "Your species processes trauma through dreaming," she said. "Disruption is expected." Aaron glanced at her. "You say that like it's data." "It is." "That doesn't mean it doesn't suck." Another pause. Then, "I understand that," she said. That was the first time he believed her. Not because of what she said, but because of how she said it. Days turned into weeks. Their interactions became less rigid, more natural. Aaron stopped seeing her as just the alien he was forced to marry, and started seeing her as Sereth, still distant, still different, but not unreachable. One afternoon, during a required public appearance, a journalist asked the question everyone had been thinking. "Do you feel any genuine connection?" the reporter said. "Or is this purely obligation?" Aaron froze. The cameras were everywhere. The world was watching. He glanced at Sereth. She didn't answer, didn't even move. She was waiting. For him. Aaron swallowed, then said, "I don't know yet." It wasn't a perfect answer, but it was honest. Later that night, back in the quiet of their shared space, Sarah spoke. "You chose uncertainty over fabrication." Aaron shrugged. "Figured it was better than lying." "It was..." He hesitated. "Did that answer bother you?" Sarah looked at him, her expression unreadable as ever. "No," she said. A pause. Then more quietly, "It aligns with my own." Something settled between them in that moment. Not love, not even trust, but something real, something unforced. And for the first time since the treaty began, Aaron didn't feel like he was just surviving. He felt like something else was beginning. He just didn't know it yet. Time didn't pass normally anymore. It stretched, folded, blurred between routine and something harder to define. By the third month, Aaron could no longer remember what his life felt like before Sereth. Not clearly, at least. The edges had softened, replaced by new habits, new rhythms. He woke to the same quiet hum of the modified atmosphere, shared meals that no longer felt strange, conversations that no longer felt forced. And yet, one thing refused to fade. The age gap. It surfaced in unexpected ways. Not in arguments, not in obvious tension, but in moments of silence. "You're thinking again," Sarah said one evening. Aaron sat across from her, staring at nothing in particular. I do that sometimes. Your neural patterns indicate repetition, focus concern. He sighed. You make it sound like a system error. Is it not? He leaned back slightly. No, it's just complicated. Sareth waited. She always waited. Aaron rubbed his hands together, searching for words that didn't feel stupid the moment he said them. You've lived, what, decades longer than me? Yes. You've seen things I can't even imagine. Entire phases of life I haven't reached. That is correct. And somehow we're supposed to be equals in this. There it was. He hadn't meant to say it like that, but it was out now. Sareth didn't react immediately. She stood, moving slowly toward him, not imposing, not distant, just present. You measure quality through time, she said. That's kind of how humans do it, yeah. It is an inefficient metric. Aaron let out a short breath. Easy for you to say. You're the one with more of it. That does not grant me superiority. It kind of does. No, she said calmly. It grants me experience, not authority. Aaron looked up at her, frustration flickering in his expression. You don't feel it all? He asked. The difference? Sareth considered that. I feel it, she said, but not as a barrier. Then what is it? A variable. That answer lingered longer than he expected. Later that night, Aaron couldn't sleep. Not that sleep came easily anymore, but this was different. His thoughts kept circling the same point. 33 years. It wasn't just about age. It was about everything that came with it. He had barely started his life. She had already lived so much of hers. Was this fair? Was it even real? Or just another part of the treaty? Something that looked like connection but wasn't? You're awake. Her voice came from the doorway. Aaron didn't turn. Yeah. A pause. Then soft footsteps. She stood beside him again, looking out at the dim city lights. You are questioning the validity of this union, she said. Wow. Straight to the point. I see no benefit in avoidance. Aaron exhaled slowly. Do you ever question it? Yes. That caught him off guard. You do. Frequently. He finally looked at her, and I reached the same conclusion, which is, Sareth met his gaze. That is no longer defined by its origin. That didn't make sense to him. Not fully. Explain, he said. She tilted her head slightly, as if organizing something complex into something he could understand. This union began as a construct, she said. A requirement imposed by external forces. Yeah, I'm aware. But continuation is not sustained by force, she continued. Only initiation was. Aaron frowned. You're saying we could... What? Just stop. If either of us withdraws cooperation, the structure fails. He blinked. You're serious? Yes. That's not what they told us. They do not require your awareness of that detail. Aaron let out a quiet, disbelieving laugh. That's insane. Yes, she said again. It is... Silence settled between them. But this time, it wasn't heavy. It was shifting. You stayed? Aaron said after a while. Yes. You didn't have to. No. Another pause. Then, neither did you. That landed harder than anything else. Days passed differently after that conversation. Not externally. The schedules remained. The expectations unchanged. But internally, something had moved. Aaron stopped seeing himself as trapped. Not entirely, but enough. He began to notice things he hadn't allowed himself to before. The way Sareth adjusted her behavior around him. Not artificially, but intentionally. The way she paused before speaking when she sensed he needed space. The way her voice softened, not in tone, but in rhythm, when conversations turned personal. These weren't programmed responses. They were choices. You are observing me differently, she said one afternoon. Aaron smirked slightly. You can tell? Yes. Good. Why? He shrugged. Because I think I finally am. Sareth studied him. For what purpose? Aaron hesitated, then answered honestly. Because I want to understand you, he said. Not because I have to. That was new, for both of them. Later, during another public appearance. The same question resurfaced, this time more directly. "Do you consider this a real relationship?" a reporter asked. Aaron didn't hesitate, as long this time. He glanced at Seraph. She didn't speak, didn't intervene. Again, she left the answer to him. Aaron turned back to the cameras. "I think," he started, then paused. "Careful, honest, I think it's becoming one." That answer spread quickly, across networks, across both species. Reactions were mixed: skepticism, curiosity, concern, hope. That night, back in their shared space, Sarah approached him. "You altered your response." "Yeah." "Why?" Aaron met her gaze. "Because it felt true." Sarah was quiet for a moment. Then, "That is significant." "Why?" "Because truth," she said, "is not required by this arrangement." Aaron smiled faintly. "Maybe not," he said, "but I think it should be." For the first time since the treaty, the age difference didn't feel like a wall. It felt like something else. Not gone, not irrelevant, but no longer defining. Just part of the equation. And for the first time, Aaron wasn't asking how long this would last. He was starting to wonder what it could become. The first sign was subtle. Too subtle. Aaron noticed it before the systems did. "The lights are off," he said, standing in the center of the room. "Not dimmed, off." Sarah looked up from the console, her expression sharpening. "That is not scheduled." "Yeah, I figured." A low hum, constant since the beginning, faded into silence. The air felt heavier. Wrong. Sarah moved quickly, her movements precise and controlled. She tapped into the interface embedded in the wall, but nothing responded. "Systems are unresponsive," she said. "That sounds bad." "It is." Aaron felt it then. Not fear, not yet, but something close. "What's happening?" he asked. Sarah paused. For the first time since he'd met her, she hesitated. "They have found us." The words didn't register immediately. "They?" Aaron asked. "A dissident faction," she said. "Virelian?" His stomach dropped. "You mean your people?" "Yes." "And they're what?" "Here to what?" "To terminate the program." Aaron let out a short, sharp breath. "You mean us?" "Yes." The silence that followed was different from all the others. This one had weight, finality. Aaron paced once, then again, running a hand through his hair. Okay, wait. There has to be something. Security? Backup? Something. "This residence is intentionally isolated," Sarah said, "for observational integrity." "Great. That's great. That's really helpful right now." "There will be no external assistance." Aaron stopped pacing, looked at her. "You're serious?" "Yes." For a moment, he felt it, the instinct to run, to hide, to deny everything and pretend this wasn't happening. This wasn't his fight. This wasn't his war. This wasn't his world. But then, he looked at her. Sarah stood still, composed as ever, but not untouched. There was something there now, something he hadn't seen before. Not fear, but acceptance. Like she had already calculated the outcome, already decided. "No," Aaron said quietly. Sarah turned to him. "No, I'm not doing that." "Doing what?" "Standing here and waiting to die. That may not be avoidable." "Yeah," he said, grabbing the nearest solid object he could find, some kind of metallic tool. "But I'm not going down without at least trying something." Sarah watched him. "Carefully. You are untrained for combat. I'm aware. You will likely fail. Also aware. A beat, then, still doing it." Something shifted in her expression. Subtle, but real. "They will arrive in under 3 minutes," Sarah said. "Then we don't have time to argue." "We do not." The first breach was silent. The door didn't explode, didn't shatter. It simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there. The next, gone. 3 figures stepped through the opening. Virelian, identical in form to Seraph, but different, sharper, colder. Weapons in their hands that bent the air around them. "Seraph Kale," one of them said, "you have deviated from directive." Sarah stepped forward. "I have adapted to it." Your adaptation is inefficient. It is necessary. You have formed attachment. A pause. Then, yes. Aaron felt his grip tighten on the tool in his hand. Attachment. That's what they called it. Like it was a malfunction. Step aside, the Lee Varelian said. The human will be removed. Aaron didn't think, didn't plan, didn't hesitate. No, he said. The word echoed louder than it should have. The Varelians turned toward him, assessing, calculating, dismissing. You are irrelevant, one of them said. Yeah. Aaron replied, heart pounding. I get that a lot. The weapon lifted. Time slowed. Aaron didn't have a strategy, didn't have training. All he had was choice. He moved, not perfectly, not effectively, but fast enough. He threw the tool, not at the attacker, but at the weapon. It struck, not hard enough to destroy, but enough to disrupt for half a second. That was all Sereth needed. She moved like something unleashed, precise, controlled, overwhelming. Her hand struck the nearest Varelian with force Aaron hadn't known she possessed, sending him crashing into the far wall. Another attacker fired. Light bending, space warping. But Sereth anticipated it, shifting just enough to avoid the impact. Aaron stumbled back, heart racing. This wasn't a fight. It was something else entirely. One of the attackers recovered quickly, too quickly. They turned toward Aaron. Weapon raised. No more variables, they said. Aaron froze. This was it. This was the moment where everything stopped. Then Sarah stepped between them. The impact wasn't loud. It wasn't explosive. It was wrong, like reality had bent in a way it wasn't supposed to. Sereth staggered, just slightly, but enough. Sereth! Aaron shouted. Something broke then. Not in the room, not in the attackers. In him, fear turned into something else. Something sharper, something louder. Hey! The shout tore out of him before he could think. The attackers turned. For a fraction of a second, their attention shifted. Aaron moved again, this time not to distract, but to act. He grabbed the fallen weapon, still unstable, still unfamiliar, and did the only thing he could think of. He pointed it and fired. The result was chaotic, uncontrolled, but effective. The energy discharged in a wide arc, forcing the attackers back, destabilizing their formation. Sereth recovered instantly and ended it. When it was over, the silence returned, but not the same silence as before. Aaron stood there, breathing hard, the weapon slipping from his hands. I didn't even know what that thing does, he said. It was sufficient, Sereth replied. She stepped toward him, closer than before, not as a diplomat, not as an assigned partner, but as something else. You acted against probability, she said. Yeah, Aaron muttered. Turns out I do that. You could have withdrawn. I know. You did not. No, he said, meeting her gaze. I didn't. Another pause. Then, why? She asked. Aaron didn't answer immediately. Not because he didn't know, but because the answer mattered. Because, he said finally, this isn't just some program anymore. Sereth held his gaze, unblinking, searching, understanding. No, she said quietly. It is not. In the days that followed, everything changed. The attack couldn't be hidden, couldn't be dismissed. Across both species, the story spread, not of rebellion, not of failure, but of something else. A human and a Varelian who had chosen each other, not because they had to, but because they refused not to. Back in the quiet of their restored home, Aaron sat beside Sereth, the city stretching out before them. Different now. Everything felt different. What happens next? He asked. Sereth looked at him, not as an observer, not as an assignment. As long as we continue, she said, this remains ours to define. Aaron nodded slowly, then smiled, small but real. Good, he said. A pause. Then, softer, because I'd choose you anyway. And this time, Sereth didn't hesitate. I know, she said. And for the first time, she smiled.